To be honest, a conversation that I've never ever talked about on any podcast before. This would be all brand new. So I get to wear a mask and pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not. I get to get into these rooms and, try to be the funny guy and the guy that everybody likes. But the truth is inside I'm the guy that destroyed. I had my first real brush with suicide. I remember going up on this rooftop, 28 stories high, and I went up there on my own. And I was ready. I was truly ready. I remember standing up against this concrete barrier and looking down at the ground, and my heels started to go up off the ground, and now I'm on my toes, and I'm just a hair away from falling off this building. But it's not about why the addiction, it's about why the pain, right? And if you can look back in the mirror and you can go back and do kind of just listen to this and just know that it's a journey, right? It's not going to happen right away. But one of the things that works for me.
Welcome to Redefining Love. I am your host, Tara, and today's guest is somebody that I deeply admire. His vulnerability and his ability to share his emotion is so moving that it will leave you on the end of your seat with tears in your eyes and chills throughout your entire body. This is no joke. Keegan has been through what most would call absolute hell, and he shares very vulnerably moments of weakness that he has had, brushes with death, addictions, and moments when he didn't want to continue on. And he found the strength. And not only did he find the strength, but he also started a company that is going to shift humanity. He is the founder of Mindful Meds, a microdosing company, and his mission is greater than anything you could ever imagine for someone who came from such a deep, dark place within. I'm really excited to introduce my guest, Keegan Downer. I first met Keegan at the MYM conference, or afterwards actually. I didn't really meet you there. I was sitting in the audience and you were on stage and you started to share your story, which is so powerful, from addiction to now being a powerful leader in the industry of microdosing with mushrooms and founder of Mindful Meds. And I remember sitting there in the audience and it was like dead silent. You could hear a pin drop because your story is so powerful. And I'm just so grateful that you're here now and you're going to share this space with me to share your story, because I know that there's people out there who need to hear about your journey and who will be deeply impacted by that experience. I know I was, because you definitely brought tears to my eyes, and I had to talk to you after. Like, that's how powerful it was. So I reached out to you on Instagram, and now here we are. So thank you, Keegan, for being here.
Super grateful to be here, and thank you for that introduction. That was a cool moment for me to get up on that stage randomly, and it was a really neat moment. So thank you, and thank you for reminding me about the MYM event. That was such a cool time, and grateful to be here.
I want to take you back to the moment. I heard your kid podcast, so you were on Kid Carson. I listened to your podcast and I was floored. Again, hearing your story from a different angle. I think it was very different the second time when I heard it. It was very detailed. And I want to take you back to when you were, I believe you were 23 years old, and you had gone from feeling like you were on top of the world to the depths of a addiction, but not only an addiction, a closet addiction. Nobody knew about it. So can you tell me about what was going on in your life in that time that you took a drink and decided this feels better than my reality?
Yeah, so, oh man, it's such a good question. Yeah, it's something I thought a lot about. Like, I think for me, I went from feeling incredible, showing up at school and just really loving what I was learning, loving the people around me, loving the way that I showed up in the world, but also not loving bits of me, not loving certain parts of me, and not being able to forgive certain parts of me as well. So, for anybody that doesn't know what Tara's referring to is, yeah, there was one night in my life that really changed the trajectory of the next almost 12, 13 years of my life. And so, yeah, I was with somebody, in the college days. We'd been together for about 4 years, and I had a one night stand with somebody in one of my classes, and it just ate me alive. Instant regret. Like, it was just one of those moments that was just so instantly regrettable. And I lived with the pain of that secretly. It was just like gnawing away at my insides for about a year. And then finally, she called me out on it, and I admitted to it. And then all of a sudden I went from that guy that I was just talking about to escaping my feelings, and escaping in the sense of, the next thing you know, I'm just surrounded by people at the pub and I'm drinking. And yeah, I mean, sorry, like, what exactly is the question? Because, like, I don't want to go too off on a tangent here. Yeah.
You're in college, right?
Yeah.
You're in college, and you're drinking with your friends. So even though, you're using alcohol, you're using it in a different way than that moment that you take that drink that is like, this feels better than my reality. Like, there's a time when you're using it as as a social, a social drug, I guess you could call it, versus using it as your own, like, self-medicine.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, that was the first time that I had ever really tasted depression, anxiety. It was supposed to be this most amazing pocket of time because I was transferring from the college to the university. And I literally remember having this moment of sitting in one of my university classes. And, that was a big thing for me because, like, I had always wanted to go to university, always go and graduate and get a degree. And I remember finally getting into that room in one of my courses, and I'm sitting with some friends of mine from high school because I went to university only 2.5 hours away from where I grew up, and just not being able to lift my head off the table, not being able to show up as the guy that I was just explaining a moment ago. And so, yeah, I was feeling the depression and anxiety, and so that really shifted the way that I leaned into alcohol, right? Like it went from having that drink that just kind of loosened you up to having that drink that just kind of numbed you out. And it's a very different way of drinking and using a substance, because all of a sudden I'm running away, right? I'm not running towards something, I'm running away from something. And you don't even see it at the time, but it was such a coping mechanism for me. I wasn't sleeping, and man, did it ever happen quick. It literally happened so fast that, like, yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're in it and you don't know how to get out.
Well, you have no idea how to get out, and you have no idea why you're doing it. You have, one day you're this guy, and the next day you're just you're somebody that doesn't, your light is gone. That's the language that you'd hear today. Like, your light is just completely dimmed out. And at the time, you're so young. This was a different period of time. I mean, today, we can get on conversations like this and talk about addiction, talk about depression, talk about an anxiety, and so many people can cling on to that because we have a society that is just full of it, right? All of us are struggling in some capacity today. But back then, at least for me, it felt like it was like, oh, Keegan's changed. The way that, all of a sudden it's like nobody wanted to be around you anymore. When really, all I was looking for was that one person, and I'm not putting blame on anybody because this is totally on me, but I'm just saying, like, my hope is that today that someone's going to hear this story and reflect on maybe a friend or a colleague or a cousin or somebody in their own world that they go, wow, maybe these are signs that somebody just needs a hand, right? Like somebody just really needs to be just grabbed on the shoulder and pulled back a few inches and say, man, I'm worried about you and I'm thinking about you, you know?
And if I can go back to, like, again, the moment that the relationship with alcohol changed for you, like, it also had to do with the relationship that you had with yourself. If it was cheating on your girlfriend, and I'm assuming losing the relationship, and maybe how that person made you feel, like it was this external validation that you no longer had serving you, right?
Yeah.
And then you're in this place where you're like, am I even worth it? Like, I'm not worth anything anymore because she doesn't want me. Look, I just made the biggest mistake of my life. I mean, people make mistakes, and you know, we're not offering ourselves compassion or forgiveness. You're just like, well, I'm a waste of space, then I might as well just keep drinking myself away, you know, just to numb, like you said. And so get into the depths of it. And then obviously for you, like, it wasn't even out in the open. Like,
I'm so glad this is coming up because, like, this had nothing to do with that moment or that situation. This had everything to do with things that had happened to little Keegan in my childhood that stemmed from those super early years that, to be honest with you, even to this day, I'm still working on. But, like, I'm now in this phase of, like, light bulb moments going off, going, holy shit. That was going to happen regardless of the cheating. It was literally going to happen at some point. The universe was going to show me a sign that I had to go back and heal some other pieces of me. And so maybe a great place to start this conversation, and to be honest, a conversation that I've never, ever talked about on any podcast before, this would be all brand new, is talking about some of the things that happened to me during those tender years as a child, right? Like so many kids, my parents went through a divorce young, right? And so my mom lived in Calgary, my dad lived in Edmonton, and I would see my dad every second weekend. So this is like ECS grade 1. So, you know, I went to grade 1 at 5 years old. And so there was that kind of, like, you know, there was the separation piece. There was like the where's dad piece. I was incredibly blessed, and we'll share this piece, that my mom found a partner who is still to this day in her life, and he is such a huge part of my family and someone I love so much. It was kind of, he didn't step into the father figure role really until a bit later because he didn't want to step on my dad's toes kind of thing. My dad was quite an intimidating character. There was that piece, and then there was this piece. Like, my parents put me into grade 1 when I was 5. And so, you know, I didn't turn 6 until the end of February. And it's funny because right before I hopped on this, something popped up on my socials about a friend of mine turning 40 today. And he was actually in the grade younger than me. And I'm not 40 yet. So just put that in perspective. Like, I was super young to be in grade 1. And, you know, and that really stunted me a little bit. So I went into grade 1 early. I really wasn't ready for it. By grade 2, I was well behind the rest of everybody else in the class. And by grade 3, my dad had left from Edmonton, moved back to the UK, and where he's from, started another family. And all of a sudden, I'm now starting to misbehave. I'm now starting to not really engage in the classroom. I'm starting to, you know, and I have this tendency, I think, even to this day, to just be a little mischievous, bit of a rascal kind of mentality, I suppose. But I really just had no desire to be in school whatsoever. And so they diagnosed me with a learning disability. And, you know, I wore that badge secretly. You know, I got diagnosed with this learning disability, and all of a sudden now I feel like I'm not worthy. I feel like I'm not as smart as other people. I'm deemed to be, you know, somebody that has these behavioral issues. And so that was I didn't realize it at the time, but that was actually something that pre-programmed me in a really interesting way. So the blend of those ingredients certainly showed up later in life.
Yeah, absolutely, because your childhood wounds are going to play out in every area of your life, even when you're an adult, right? Until you go back and you do that healing work, which it sounds like you probably even experienced some abandonment from your father leaving, you know, and moving on with a different family. Like, even though you got to spend time with him, it was still going to affect you as a child for him to leave.
Yeah, you know what? I'm super interested in this conversation. I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in this conversation, so if you have anything to share around that in your own learnings, I would be super open to hearing it. Because I've actually got a lot more to unpack on this podcast than I thought. I've got some more coming. Yeah.
I can only speak from my own learning and wisdom, and of course, like the relationship that we have with our parents, and sounds like specifically your father. First of all, from what I know of you now, your father was also an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a learned behavior. You see, that's how he's moving through his life, is drinking every day, and you kind of learn by example in a way. And also then the abandonment piece, and then looking for, now that you don't feel worthy because your father's left you, he's abandoned you, you're not enough, because in your mind as a child, when now he's starting a new family, you're like, well, what's wrong with this family? How come you left me? Like, I'm not enough. And so that's going to carry forward subconsciously for you into your relationship, right? So now you're in a relationship with this girl. Let's take you back to 23. And you've done the thing that you did that, she decided to leave. And that abandonment wound is coming back up to the surface again. And now it's like that whole story that you told yourself as a child when your father left you is now going to replay in your, in your older years. And obviously this time it was deep. You felt it deeply because now you're conscious and aware of it as, in your 20s. And that obviously is probably like the catalyst to the depth of your addictions, right? And your addictions they weren't just addictions. Like, you had zero self-worth. You were contemplating taking your life for a long time. Can you share a little bit about, like, just from what I know about you now, I mean, you thought about taking your own life in New York. I heard that story. Maybe bring us there. And then it didn't go away after that. So even though you talked yourself out of it, you then wanted to make it to your sister's wedding. So can you just share a little bit about, like, that story?
Yeah. So dropped out of university in February. I had been hired to go take on this job in New York City for that summer. So I showed up in New York City, and I'll never forget getting on this flight in May. At this point, I had drank from February to May, so however long that is, And before that, I had never drinking more than 2 nights in a row. And now it's like 100 and some odd days in a row drinking straight. Man, and I'll never forget the flight, because I remember getting on this flight and looking at the back of everybody's heads and thinking to myself, I would change my life with any single person on this flight. Anybody but me. I just don't want to be me. I had made the decision on that flight that I wasn't coming home. It was just it. I could no longer feel the way that I felt inside. It was so painful. I hated who I was becoming. And I was just in so much pain. Like, I honestly, man, like, and at that point, still not sharing any of this with anybody, including my family. Now I'm in New York City with this whole group of people that don't even really know me. So I get to wear a mask and pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not. I get to get into these rooms and, try to be the funny guy and the guy that everybody likes. But the truth is inside, I'm the guy that is fucking destroyed. I had my first real brush with suicide. I remember going up on this rooftop, 28 stories high, And I went up there on my own. Previously, I'd been up there with, the team and some friends that came out to New York to visit. And it was supposed to be a fun place to go and, look out over the lights of Manhattan and across the Hudson River. But one night I got up there on my own, and I was ready. I was truly ready. I remember standing up against this concrete barrier and looking down at the ground, and it's completely covered in trash. Literally completely covered in trash, and it's hot and humid and muggy, and my heels started to go up off the ground, and now I'm on my toes, and I'm just a hair away from falling off this building, and I heard this whisper. You hear other people talk about it, but you really hear this voice inside, and this voice said to me, "Just get to your sister's wedding." And I'm so glad she got married that summer. So this moment that I'm sharing, whole body's shivering right now. So I just remember hearing this voice, and so it's like middle of June. All I had to do was make it another 2 months. My sister got married at the end of August, and so I showed up in Calgary. Somehow got through the summer, still drinking every single day, And now it's like I'm starting to drink, in the afternoons, whereas before I was just drinking in the evenings. Now I'm drinking in the afternoons. So it's starting to progress. Like, it's really got its claws in me at this point in time. And then I'll never forget, like, I'm walking through the Calgary airport after getting off a flight from New York City, and this is when I knew. This is when I knew I was an alcoholic. It was the moment. I remember reaching for my passport to go through customs, and my arm was shaking, like that, kind of like that. And I was going through alcohol withdrawal. I had only been drinking for 7 months. And here I am going through alcohol withdrawal, getting off a flight that's only 4.5 hours.
You were going through this and you're struggling, then obviously you were isolating yourself quite a bit.
Not in New York. That didn't come till later. The isolation definitely was coming. That was a later phase for me.
So New York was your new identity. Like, you felt safe to be this person that was openly drinking with new friends and new people that you knew because you had this new mask on that you were.
Yeah. And I want to say like new friends, but and new people but nothing was fun, right? Like, it was all just a fake. Like, I didn't even know who I was. I'm still figuring out who I am, right? Like, and we'll get to that, right? Like, I've gone through this place of depression and anxiety, but I'm still going through this phase today of self-love. I'm still on the journey of trying to figure out how to love myself. And, maybe, some things even happened this past year that I'm having these epiphanies. It's like, oh, fuck, why is this all happening? Right? Like, why, and so maybe we'll get into the later phases, but we're skipping a bunch here, but I'll just share something because we're on this at the moment. I had this moment last year where somebody really important in my life that I really cared about, and the relationship had just kind of dissolved. And there was one comment that he made to me that changed my entire life. And, there's nothing I've ever heard in my life that was more, that just floored me, literally just stabbed in my heart. And he said this to me. He said, this relationship was toxic for me. And man, I'll tell you, Tara, I have, that night, I remember driving home. We were having lunch. And I remember driving home and telling this to my soon-to-be wife. At that stage, we got married this summer. And both of us just sitting in the living room, crying, just trying to understand it. It just didn't make it. It was just one of those moments that, I think my knee-jerk reactions and stuff like that is usually to maybe get a bit defensive or to not acknowledge it and try to point a finger and say, well, man, actually, here's all the things that I've done, but I didn't do any of that. It was the first time ever that I was like, okay, well, I don't ever want to hear that again from anybody. But I literally didn't think, it just floored me. And so that night, I'm going to weave it all back to the self-love piece, but it was a great time to tell this story. I met a friend for dinner, and I didn't want to go. Like, I just didn't want to go. It was 2 days before the MYM. I was just absolutely gutted. And I said a friend, but this is somebody that, like, I was building a friendship with. So, not quite at that point, but it's, somebody I respected, somebody quite well known in the healing community, not just in the Okanagan, but really, he's quite a well-known person and respected person. And I remember walking in to Earl's, and I certainly wasn't this when I walked in, right? Like, I didn't want to be there. And I was so wounded from the comment. It was only like 6 hours later. And I looked at this guy, and he was literally jumping through his skin with I had never seen this guy like this before. He had something in him that shifted. Have you ever had a moment where you hadn't seen somebody for a while, but then you see them and you go, wow, like, that person's really changed. That was that moment. Maybe you've had it before. Maybe you can think back on it. Anybody listening, think back on that, right? This was this moment for him, and I looked at him and I shared what I just shared with you, and I believe there were some tears. I'm not too sure, but like, I just said, I'm sorry, man. Like, I got nothing to give tonight, and so he just started sharing with me, how he got this new light inside of him, and like, you've totally changed. And he goes, I went and met this woman named Dr. Divi, and she changed my life in a day. And I started to work through all of this underlying anger that I had in my body, and which was the driver of drugs and alcohol. He had I'm not going to share who this person is, but he had silently been, kind of struggling like I had been. I wasn't drinking, but certainly, wasn't sober. And it was the first time in a long time that I had related to somebody on that level, that had just like really been through some of the stuff that I'd been through. And my God, like, the universe put him in my way that day. And so I went home that night. So this is all the same day, yeah. Right? So I went to this dinner. What's that?
It's a long day for you. Like,
it's a long day.
Transformation and shifting and emotion, and yeah. Okay, go home.
Yeah, so now I'm at my kitchen table. Does my camera look blurry? It's suddenly gone blurry a bit. But I got home, I started looking up this person, and she's got an event 3 weeks away from then in the Okanagan, and which was in my backyard essentially. And I was just like, okay, well, shit. So anyways, I ended up signing up for this, and this was so out of my wheelhouse. It was 5 days, non-psychedelic healing retreat. It was framed to me as 60 layers of healing. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And I'll never forget, it started on a Thursday. On Wednesday, I got put into this group chat with this group, and I found out that there was 22 people. And I'm like, immediately like, oh man, I don't feel so special anymore. I thought there was only going to be like 6 or 10 of us, and like, there's going to be a lot of one-on-one stuff, and now there's this huge group. And really, it's my ego trying to like talk me out of going, and it was pretty fucking close, I'm not going to lie. But then I didn't, and I showed up, and I remember getting into this room, all going to lead back to this self-love piece. And so here's what happened. I was the last person to walk into this, into the venue. The venue, when I walked in, there was a whole group of people that I'd never met before. My heart's a bit racy. I'm so out of like, this is just not really my thing. And so, but I knew I needed to be there. And so I look at the woman who's the host, Dr. Divi, and she's standing in this, in the living room, and she's got an easel in front of her, and there's people all around this enormous living room sitting. And, I'm thinking we're going to walk in and we're all going to start chatting and get to know each other. And I walk in and say hi to her, and she goes, don't go anywhere. You're the first one in, and the spirit guides want me to start right now. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Literally. And so I am, again, not on a first name basis with everybody. I'm literally the last guy in, and now I'm the first guy in this circle. And she opens up this entire event, okay, this 5-day event. She opens up with this line. She goes, Keegan, why do you hate yourself? And yeah. And she goes, your grandfather hated himself, your dad hated himself, and now you hate yourself. My whole entire body is full of, I'm shivering. And I'll tell you what, I within 5 minutes of getting there am now undressing why I was there, undressing why I hated myself. I had never looked in the mirror. I want to say this. I never looked in the mirror and said to myself that I hate you. But that question was so perplexing to me and really has been the catalyst for me to go on this healing journey and really figure that side of it out. So really long-winded way to talk about self-love, but that ingredient, what I found is really, you can't live a happy, joyous life that's full of all the ingredients that we want to have unless you learn to love yourself. And you can't get it from anybody else. There's nobody that can fill that void for you. And I had been looking for self-love in all the wrong places, right? And I'll tell you, man, that was 5 minutes into 5 days. So just imagine what happened after this. Like it was.
And obviously that experience shifted your life. I wanted to ask you, like, when you went to this event, were you sober at this point?
Yeah. Well, I don't consider myself sober. I mean, I'm into mushrooms. I'm into cannabis.
Not using alcohol in a self-defeating way.
No. So February 1st is coming up for 2 years alcohol free for me. So, maybe by the time this lands, we're talking today, January 19th, 2025. So we're off the alcohol. And to me, alcohol has been the drug, the stimulant.
Back to, the point when that friend, I guess, made that comment to you about the toxic relationship for him.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a validating comment for you that validated all of the beliefs you had about yourself from childhood. Like it was almost like, you struggled already because your dad had abandoned you. You struggled with feeling worthy, feeling loved. And then, you come to this point when this person that you probably have been friends with for a long time, and I'm not sure what the dynamic was, but like this person that you really you thought you had a good friendship, and here he is telling you that you're toxic for him. I mean, that is like a knife in the wound. Like, it's like this moment for you that you are no longer able to hide from this wound. You have to face it. And then just the synchronicity of them meeting that other gentleman. And you were so open and vulnerable with him. And then he, in turn, was vulnerable with you. Like, it's beautiful how you can be so real with people. And that's one of the things I actually really admire about you. Knowing you for a short period of time now, mostly virtual. Like you're just to the point. You're like, you can't hide it. You don't put on those masks anymore. You're yourself. And I think that that's such an example for others to recognize that it's okay to be you. And it's okay to share that you're having a really shitty day. Like, that's okay. And also by doing so, you're accepting yourself and where you're at right now today in this moment at whatever capacity you love yourself. I mean, self-love is a real journey. It's not a destination. It takes time, evolution. But every single one of these experiences that you've had was a catalyst to another layer of love that you had to find for yourself in order to survive another day, to take another step forward, right? And I think that, life is, whether we like it or not, going to give us these challenges. And some are harder than others. And it's like the strength that we find inside of those challenges, the wisdom, the self-love, the compassion, the recognizing that, validation outside of ourselves. There's something I really heard, and I think his name is Peter Crohn's. Is that?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard this from him, but he shared something his therapist said, and it was that when we meet someone and we fall in love, we're not falling in love with that person. We're falling in love with the version of ourselves that person is bringing out of us because they've come into our life, but actually that is available to us always. Like, we always have access to that. And then when that person leaves, it's like we don't have that anymore, but that's actually not true. Like, we have access to this feeling within ourselves that this person brought out of us. It's like a version of ourselves that we get to be around them. And and it's just a really powerful thought, because we believe, we've been programmed that love exists outside of us. But I mean, just through your own journey and your own experience, you've kind of showed you're working on this relationship with you, and it's ongoing, and it's just evolving. And now you can stand here today and you can be like, I really love myself more than I loved myself when I was, using alcohol as a medicine. But you went to this retreat. So tell me about, like, what changed in you during that retreat? Like, what was the outcome with the relationship with yourself? Obviously highlighted that this was a cycle from, your father, your grandfather.
Well, I mean, so much happens at retreats like this, and I think a part of the journey when you go through something like this is you're in this environment where everybody is there for the same reason. Everybody is looking to heal. Everybody is there because they want more zest out of life. And so, it's always shocking to see who ends up in these rooms, because it's not who you might think is going to be there. This particular group was, there's a handful of them to me today that I just truly look at and am inspired by. But like, you've got strong leaders and business owners and entrepreneurs and people that are trying to get to the next level. And all of us are working on these inner wounds. And so to be in that environment where everybody's just so vulnerable, it is so special just to see people just get into a place where they stop hiding. They start to really tell the truth about who they are, and they stop being embarrassed about it. And for me, like I said, it was 5 days of this, and like, I've been working with a coach for the past year and a half, this guy that I love and respect, and he's incredible. But, every time I get on a call with him, which generally is every second Monday, I look at the title of the Zoom call, and it's More Fun, More Joy. I've been trying to figure out how to really enjoy my life and have more fun. And if I was just to share what I've found about this journey that I've heavily invested in, it all circles back. 100% of it circles back to the question that I was asked. It's like, why do you hate yourself? And figuring out that one single question is going to change the trajectory of the rest of my life. And I haven't fully figured it out, but at least I'm committed to the journey of figuring it out. I know that at the underbelly of everything that I'm looking for, it stems there. And it's such an interesting way that we started this call, because it's not the moment in New York City. It's not the moment where I cheated. It's the moment as a kid that just keeps on showing up time and time again in my life. And if I can't go and work with little Keegan and heal him and the inner child wounds, the rest of my life just simply won't come together the way that I want it to. And so I'm committed to that path at the moment. Proud of that. I'm proud that I'm here and I'm looking it in the mirror and I'm saying, all right, I'm coming. We're coming to do the healing, right? Like,
and honestly, like, it's so beautiful to hear you say that you're looking in the mirror now and you're looking at yourself and you're saying, I'm ready for, I'm ready, totally. And I'm worthy. There's something really powerful that you posted on the internet. If it's okay, I share it.
Sure. This is a great one because it's been completely on the fly. None of this that we've touched on has been pre-chatted about. It's just been flowing.
No, I know, and that's what I love when we get on calls, you and I, because I feel like they always go where they're meant to. So this is you wrote this, okay? So
Oh shit.
so this was on your Instagram. You posted a picture of yourself. The post was on February 26, 2024. And the pictures of you floored me because you literally look like you were on death's doorstep. And this obviously wasn't that long ago for you. And you wrote this, 52 days ago, I hit rock bottom and I thought my life was over. All of my strength and muscle had disappeared and the pain and discomfort was unbearable. I felt physically and mentally completely broken and lost. I had never cried so much in my entire life. My depression and my feelings of emptiness had taken on an all-time high. And then I decided right there and then this wasn't it. This is the time and the cue for a comeback. I have more to bring to this world. If you choose to find it, and at the other end of adversity is a treasure. I mean, those are very powerful words. Really brought tears to my eyes, as a lot of your, what you've been through does. But, you were writing that from Tofino, from this beautiful place. You guys had just walked 6 kilometers. I mean, you didn't even know if you were going to survive that experience in the hospital. Can you share a little bit about what happened for you and what shifted within you? Because that sounds like a very, very powerful moment that you had.
Oh, man. That just brought me to tears to even think about it. It's hard to believe that was a year ago, right? And so the picture, I'm sitting here today and I've got my health back. So if you're listening to this and you're going through something tremendously challenging, I just want you to know that what she just read me was less than a year ago that I posted this. And I gotta be honest, you can't really see it when you're in it. When you're in it, you can't see the other side of it. But once you start to get to the other side and you look back and you go, holy shit, I figured out how to get through that. You become a different version of yourself. You become such a stronger person on the other side of it. But yeah, man, I went through something frightening last year. I had gotten sick, about a year before. There's a lot to this story. We're definitely going to have to dive into this a bit deeper on the next pod that we do together. But yeah, to circle up to that moment, I went in for a life-saving surgery in December 21st of 2023, spent the first 2 weeks in the hospital of 2024. And I woke up, from the surgery and I had a stoma bag attached to my stomach. And that was really tough to navigate. It was really, really tough to navigate. My weight had dropped to 135 pounds. Getting off these narcotics from the hospital, I got out of the hospital and all of a sudden now I've got this stoma on my stomach. I don't even look recognizable. I don't know if you have the ability. Maybe I'll ask my video editor to throw up the photo so that people can see. But I didn't recognize myself, and honestly, it was a dark time. It was a really, really, really dark time. I almost gave up.
When you think about how far you've come, you've just battled this addiction. You've just finally, uncovered this new version of you. You're working on this new business, Mindful Meds. Everything seems to be going on an upward trajectory, and just at the height of your rise, it's like life takes you down again, and then here you are in this moment again where you're like, I don't know how much more I can handle. But then, and for some reason, there was something there for you, this like force that came through for you that was like, no, we're not done. Like, we have big work to do in the world. And it's like, it's the power of the mind in that moment, right? Like when we're facing adversity and believing that you're going to get through this and knowing that it's only a moment in time.
You know, oh man, if you could see this, like this is this is a lot to think back about, because it wasn't just me. I wouldn't have made it out of this on my own. My wife Elisa, she saved my life.
So you never got to this part in your story, but you met her at the wedding that you were really holding out for, so you could make it to your sister's wedding, and that's where the two of you met.
I'm so happy that I'm crying. I have not cried in a really long time. But this piece just means so much to me. So that whisper in the back of my head to get to my sister's wedding wasn't just about. So it wasn't just about making it to my sister's wedding and seeing my family. That was the night that I met Elisa. And Elisa's my wife. We've been together now for 12, 13 years. Known each other since 2008. It took a while to start dating after that, because again, like I wasn't dating. No, I didn't want to date myself, right? And so how was I supposed to go into a relationship when I really at that stage didn't love myself at all? But I just want to go back to this moment, because this wasn't long ago, and I'll never forget sharing. So now I've got the stoma bag. I'm 135 pounds. I'm 6'2", so like it looked like I was a walking skeleton, and now I've got the stoma on my stomach, and I don't want to deter anybody, because you could get through life with a stoma bag on your stomach. I promise you that. But my experience with it, hard. It was hard, man. I didn't know how to adjust to it, and I'm starting to fall out from the heavy narcotics that I had in the hospital, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I can't walk. I can't talk. I can't do business, and I'm already struggling with the value that I have to give this world, and now I felt like I had absolutely nothing, and I had said out loud, and to this moment, I regret it, but I had said to my family that if I have to live my life with this stoma bag, I'm going to sign up for the assisted suicide. And I think I was trying to control the narrative. I was trying to tell the universe, don't you dare do this to me, and I was at this place where I had no idea if it was going to reverse. I had no idea if I was going to qualify for the reversal. They had taken out 75% of my large intestine. And I'll never forget this moment of Elisa's waiting outside in the car in the middle of the winter, going to drive me to this appointment where this woman's supposed to show me how to change the stoma bag. And she'd been waiting outside for 10 minutes because I couldn't fall down the stairs. I literally couldn't walk. And I got into the car, and that was, there's never been a moment in my life. Forget about that moment on top of, in New York City. This was the moment. This was the most rock bottom moment I ever had in my whole entire life, when I finally pulled myself, using all my strength up, to sit next to her as a passenger in this car. I just wanted to give up. And she wasn't having it. She wasn't having that. She stood by me, and she not only stood by me, man, but she made me feel handsome and attractive and wanted and loved.
She was a mirror for you, though. She was a mirror. I mean,
Yeah.
she was showing you the love that you are, that you need to embody for yourself. And she's just always been there beside you, just mirroring that back, even in the moments that you hated yourself.
Yeah. But holy shit, man. I remember, because, yeah, coming up to 2 years without a drop of alcohol, but I'll tell you what, man, that day, the way that I wanted to escape, the way that I was feeling, I'll never forget it. It was just like this overall desire of just gasping for air, and all I could think about was chugging a bottle of vodka. And she sat there with me and helped me and helped me navigate this, and didn't judge me, and she never has ever. Yeah, this girl saved my life, and I love her more than anything.
She's literally been the angel in your life that's helped you through all of these very, very difficult moments in your life where you had to face adversity, and you were on your knees, and you needed to be pulled up, and she was there for you.
Totally.
So when you now see yourself in the mirror, when you look at yourself, can you look at this guy and be like, you are amazing. You have so much to give this world, and have so much compassion and love for yourself that, that you're here now, and you have a big mission. And I want to get to that, like at least touch on it if you have some time.
For sure, yeah. Let's do that. You know what? Like, even after everything that I said, and all the things that I've been invested in, and all the inner work that I've been doing, and it's been a lot. It's been years of therapy, and all the other healing modalities, and everything combined. It's come a long way. It's definitely come a long way. I'm at the point now where I really think I know. I know that, like, there's no one dialed in to know exactly what the piece that I have to work on. Does that make sense to you? So I'm really happy about that, because it actually gives me so much excitement, because it's just been this huge, long journey of trying to figure just that out. And yeah, I certainly do love myself. I do. I love the value that I bring to the world, and I'm excited. I'm excited about life again for the first time in a very long time. But it's still an ongoing work in progress, right? Like, it's like we all are. All of us are, right? Like, it's this never-ending journey that we're all on of just trying to become the next best version of ourselves. And so I can tell you what, I'm addicted to that journey. I constantly take a look in the mirror and self-evaluate. I'll never stop doing that. But yeah, I think it's not all the way there yet. It certainly isn't, but it's come a long way. For me to get on a podcast and cry, I mean, I've never ever done that before, ever. So just to be able to even just get in, and feel it, and allow it to come up, right? Wasn't expecting that, but God, am I ever grateful that just happened, because yeah, I need it, right? Like, we all need to cry.
It's the being human in you,
Yeah.
We live in this world where we think we have to always put on like a face, and we can't show emotion or express emotion, but you're human, and these things are going to come through for you, and you're going to feel them, and like, you can be like, oh, I'll push that away and I'll deal with it later, and just continue to distract yourself, but then it's going to be like dynamite one day and explode.
Totally.
So,
totally.
For someone that, is really struggling with addiction, is there like something you want to say, like that, maybe a piece of advice as somebody who's been through a lot?
Man, I mean, listen, if you're in the trenches and you're going through it, just know two things. Gabor Mate talks about it. It's not about why the addiction, it's about why the pain, right? And if you can look back in the mirror and you can go back and do kind of just listen to this and just know that it's a journey, right? It's not going to happen right away. But one of the things that worked for me was starting just to get away from the substance. And because I was so addicted, you know, in the end, I was the first guy at the liquor store at 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd been drinking for 11, I don't even know how many years, but it was a lot. It was many, many years. So it started when I was 23, got into rehab at 31. So essentially 8 years of straight drinking. And the embarrassment, the guilt, the shame that I felt to go and walk into that rehab center, well, guess what, man? Now I get to get on these, and I'm so proud of the journey, and I get to go and share my story. It becomes a part of your identity, and you know, you're going through this for a reason, and I know you can't see it today, but I promise you, on the other side of this, you're going to figure out how to use it as a superpower of some kind. Our greatest strengths generally are cultivated from our greatest pain. Okay? And that piece, you have no idea what you know, that sounded totally foreign to me. But yeah, I would share that, and I would just share that there is no shame for getting help. No shame. I gotta be honest with you, man. If you are somebody that has navigated an addiction and figured out how to come out the other side, there's nobody in the world that I want to be around more than that person. Okay? I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how many businesses you built. I don't care what you've done. If you show me that you've been able to come out the other side of that, I want to be in the room with you because I got something to learn from you. So just know that on the other side of this pain is going to be a gift for you. And it's not something that you need to navigate alone. It's not something that I would ever say to navigate alone, and actually can be very dangerous to do. So getting into a rehab facility, if you need help or support, if you're listening to this, and I'm pretty accessible just over Instagram, and I can share more of my journey about how I got, you know, off the booze, not once but twice. And I'm about to have my 2-year. I'm really proud of that because this one's actually been almost more challenging than the first one because I've had to go back and look at what it all started to begin with.
What better person to share wisdom with somebody that's been through it and come out the other side? And I know when people are in that place where they're in it, I mean, I've watched, this is really close to my heart because I have family that's battled with addiction. And, you know, I've watched their struggle, and when you're in the darkness and the depths of it, it's like it's like all you see is darkness. There's no light coming through. And so that's powerful because maybe that will give someone hope that doesn't have any right now.
Totally. And honestly, like, Tara, there's not many people I know that aren't in arm's length, and whether it's in their own family, whether it's in their group of friends, whether it's their group of colleagues, we're all connected to somebody with an addiction, right? And so this is a really important conversation to have because there is hope for people that have completely written off their lives, and I'm a walking example of this. And now we can maybe jump to some of the fun stuff, right? Like I'm working on a project today, and the whole entire reason I'm doing the work that I'm doing today is because of the journey that I've been on with my mental health, because of the journey that I've been on with my addiction. And all I want to do today is help other people. And that's how I ended up in the mushroom industry. And so we develop what I believe are the safest, most consistent, and the highest vibrational frequency medicine that is here to help and serve people that you can find anywhere in the world today.
Absolutely. So tell me, say for someone who is really afraid, a skeptic of microdosing mushrooms. I mean, I'm in the mushroom world too, so I'm like all for everything that you're doing, and I love your products. By the way, I've personally used them. What would you want to say to that skeptic?
So much. I would start by saying I understand. Like, I totally get it. Like this is something that we have been pre-programmed to think is wrong. It isn't good for you. It is, right? When you circle this back to the 1970s and Nixon was doing the war on drugs, this was imprinted into our grandparents, our parents, and we're trying to unravel that entire way of thinking. So I understand. But it starts with this, right? It starts by knowing that mushrooms, so there's this professor, his name's David Nutt, and he did this incredible study. They did it in Europe and they replicated it in North America. And if you're somebody that just likes raw data, head over to mindfulnets.io, download our free microdosing ebook. It's 62 pages long. As far as I know, it's the most comprehensive microdosing guide available in the world today. And I've got this study that I'm going to share with you guys in the guide. But really what it looked at was all of the top 20 drugs in the world. Okay? So we're talking about everything from, well, I'm not going to say it because I'll ask you. You actually already know the answer to this if you listen to the Kid Carson podcast. But it really tables the most dangerous drugs and substances in the world, from the most dangerous to the least dangerous. And it was two-pronged, because it wasn't just simply about how dangerous it was for your own individual body. It was also how dangerous it was for the community of people around you. So your family and the rest of the people in your community. So it was two-pronged. And here's what they found out. And by the way, like I said, they replicated this study all around the world, and the results were identical. Okay? So here it is. So the first thing is the most dangerous drug in the world. This is going to floor some people, but I think at this point, people are coming, they're waking up a little bit to this a little bit. But I'll just say the most dangerous drug in the world by far, and it's not even close, it's killing 3 million people a year globally, is alcohol. Destroying families, right? Destroying lives. And honestly, it's one of the most difficult to get off once you clip an addiction. And so, you'd think it was opiates. It's actually alcohol. And then it kind of goes down the list, and there's heroin, there's opiates, and all sorts of other substances on this list. Cannabis is on there. I'm a big cannabis fan, but one of the things about cannabis is it's addictive. It's highly addictive. And also something that's quite challenging to get off. Not the same way, but, I've struggled with cannabis, over the years as well. But at number 0, the last place, the safest drug on the whole planet, okay, is mushrooms. Especially when we're talking about microdosing. I'm going to save some thoughts around macrodosing maybe for the next one. But microdosing at this level is so incredibly safe. And so there's that piece, to the skeptics, to anybody concerned or fearful. And when we're talking about microdosing, we're talking about, from a general perspective, we're talking about sub-intoxication. So we're talking about such a small amount, anywhere from 1/20th of a gram to all the way up to about 1/3 of a gram would be considered a microdose. So there's quite a big variance there. But the reality is this is something you can take and go about your day, and you're not actually supposed to feel. And this is where people get really caught up. And I wanted to share something about this, if you don't mind, Sarah, because this piece of, people getting a bottle of microdoses and just expecting their life to all of a sudden magically change, popping a pill, that's the society that we're all in, right? Take a sleeping pill, take something for depression, take something for anxiety. All of a sudden I'm going to numb it out and I'm better. Take something for my cold, take something for whatever. That is not how microdosing works. And I want to make that very clear out of the gate, because here's what I found. With microdosing, first of all, you have to be in a place where you have enough determination in the underbelly of your drive, your spirit, that you want to get to a better place. You want to elevate your life. And when I'm talking about that determination, think about it like this. You could hire the best coach in the entire world, but if you don't go and do the things that he or she shares with you from a coaching perspective and put it into action, you just hired the best coach in the whole world, and you're not going to see any traction. And you can't replicate. Nobody but you is going to be able to give you the determination to change your own life. So that's number 1. If you are ready to get your life into a better place, you are the absolute perfect avatar for a microdosing. Immediately. Instantly. Okay? But here's 3 tips that I'm going to share with you. So one is this. Keep a journal. Okay? Because it's not that aha moment where you're just like, oh shit, my life is better, right? It's a series of micro little tiny moments that you look at over the course of a week to 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 8 weeks to 12 weeks to 6 months. And all of a sudden you look back and you go, holy shit, things have really shifted. And it's these micro moments that are so simple, right? Like it's being at the grocery store and there's 10 people in line, and usually you're looking at your watch and you're going, oh fuck, I don't have time for this, but all of a sudden you're looking at the person behind you and you're having a chat with them. And then you go, holy shit, that moment changed my day, because that was just a special moment of connecting with somebody that normally I don't even have time for. So that micro moment. Or in my own life, right? Like it's like being back here in the beautiful city of Calgary. Friday night, I'm on this date night with we're on this little date night out with our nieces. It's 11 o'clock and I go on Deerfoot, and I couldn't believe it. It reminded me of rush hour traffic, and it was just like, we just laughed about it. And that's new to me, because like normally that was like traffic is kind of my trigger. And so whatever your trigger is, I think you're going to find yourself to be slightly less triggered. And start to look at your triggers and go, okay, maybe there's something here for me to look at and work on.
Right. I have an example even of that. Sorry, I'll just share with you.
Yeah, please.
A client of mine, I had directed him to microdosing, and he was suffering with a lot of anxiety and repeated thoughts. And so he went and got the microdoses, and a week later, I was like, how are you feeling? Have you noticed any shifts? He's like, no. I'm like, well, are you still getting anxious about that particular thing? No. Okay. Like, okay. And are you finding like you're still thinking about the thing that you were thinking about? He's like, no. I'm like, okay. Like, but that's the thing. Like, people expect it to be almost like a macrodose where it's like this big, like, aha moment. But microdosing is incremental changes and shifts in the brain over time. And actually a study that they did, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this one, but they did a study with mice, and it was showing that that microdosing over time actually causes the brain to grow new neurons. And I don't know if they've translated these yet into human studies. Maybe you know that, but it's pretty incredible because what can actually help the brain grow new neurons? It's almost like it's increasing our intelligence. So it's super powerful and very different than macrodosing.
Totally, man. I'm so glad we got to this in this conversation. But back to the 3 things, and I got something to share on what you just shared. So keeping a journal. 2 is if you have the resources, give yourself an opportunity to be on these supplements for 8 to 12 weeks. And the reason being is because it sometimes can take a little bit of tinkering to figure out where your own individual sweet spot is when it comes to microdosing. And so a lot of people will order a dose that maybe is just a bit too strong for them. We have a variety of products that range from the lowest dose being 1/20th of a gram all the way up to quite a stronger microdose. And if we have time, I'll share why we have such a variance. But the truth is if I had a room with 30 people in front of me today, I'm doing a mushroom talk on Wednesday, and I would say that only maybe 2 or 3 of us are going to have that exact same sweet spot when it comes to what works on their own individual system. And it has nothing to do with body weight. It has nothing to do with gender. It has nothing to do with those variables. It really just circles back to how your body responds to, metabolizes the medicine. And so there's that piece. It's just like allow yourself time to figure out the journey for yourself. Grab 2 or 3 doses and start to find your own individual sweet spot. And then once you get that dialed in, you kind of stick with it. So that's the second piece, is just really finding the dose that is going to work for you. And then what else is there? And then thirdly, get educated, man. Honestly, the people that go and do a bit of homework, download this guide, read it from start to finish, I promise you, and I've been on calls with thousands of people over the last 5 years. The people that come to me and have already read the guide, oh my God, the results 2 to 3x themselves. And it's just this idea that this medicine is here for you to collaborate with, okay? You have to work with the medicine for this to work. And so if you're somebody that is going to this, is looking to elevate their lives, you're determined to get to the next best version of yourself, you are the perfect avatar for microdosing. And second of all, I've really never seen this not work for those people. Do you want to know just a bit more about the raw science as to how your friend that you were just talking about, how that actually works on the brain? So here it is. So 2018, they did this tremendous study out of the Imperial College of London. And that's like an Ivy League school. Way back in 2018, they've been studying this now forever. Almost every major university in the world today that has any relevance is studying psychedelics at some capacity today. But they started to look like what is actually going on with the human brain, and the hypothesis was there's got to be some sort of fireworks going on, and when they got into it, here's what happened. So your friend that had the racing thoughts, how many of us have that? That's one of the signs. One of the top signs of a dysregulated nervous system is the racing thoughts, and I often get that at nighttime. I've just got this overactive mind. But here's the deal. If you're somebody that has depression, anxiety, PTSD, OCD, eating disorders, any of the big ones, deep underlying trauma, if you're somebody that, has that negative self-talk, that whisper in your ear, we all have it, right? I don't know how many thoughts we have in a day, but we certainly all have a thought or two a day that has that in it. You're spending so much of your time in the back right portion of your brain in this place. It's called the default mode network. And that is where we're kind of living. And here's what they found with this study. The blood flow to that portion of the brain is actually shortcutted. And when the blood stops flowing there, you can actually break out of that portion of your brain. And now all of a sudden you're connecting this new neuroplasticity, these new neural pathways, and all of a sudden you're starting to shift your behavior. So microdosing is not about the feeling, it's about the shifts in your behavior. And so, what I have found in almost every anecdotal case of microdosing, people eat healthier. People start to think about what they're putting in their bodies. And not just putting in their body, but putting in their field. Like, who am I hanging out with? What am I doing that is in alignment with getting to the next best version of myself? Wow. I hope that makes sense.
Wow. I mean, who wouldn't want to have that? Who wouldn't want to experience that and shift themselves out of that? I mean, microdosing has been such a powerful part of my own life, and I know so many people that I've worked with have, it's broken them out of any, prison of their mind, that they were stuck in, which I feel like sometimes happens for us, right? When you think about, the anxiety, the depression, it's all these looping thoughts or feelings and the emotions attached to those thoughts. And then it puts us in this physical state. And it's when you can kind of break out of that through this increased blood flow, creating neuroplasticity or rerouting neural pathways in the brain. Yeah. I mean, therapy couldn't do that. You have to override those old patterns of thought, right? So this is why I believe so much in what you're doing. I know this is going to help so many people. I've seen it in my own work, and I'm just so grateful that you are on this path doing what you're doing, and that we can change people's view on mushrooms being a drug, because nature's medicine, they're here for us to heal our emotions, to heal ourselves. It's not by accident that they're here. Anything in a lab and man-made is more dangerous for us than anything that nature gives us. So I just wanted to add that in. But as we were kind of wrapping this up, is there anything else that we should know about what you're into, what your projects are? Anything else you want to share with us before we finish up?
Yeah, I have one kind of exciting thing to share with everybody. So the past 6 months, one of the questions that I get nonstop, literally nonstop, in the back of the DMs directly to me when I'm with my family and friends and my people, it is, oh my God, I'm struggling with sleep. And I can tell you that that has been a huge issue in my own personal life. I have really struggled with sleep since 2019. It hasn't always been an issue, but it started for me in 2019. And so, and this was about 2 or 3 years of getting this question. I'd say the first kind of two things that people ask about is what do you have for, anxiety and depression? And then the next big question that we get is what do you have for sleep performance? And I didn't really have an answer to it until now. So 6 months ago, I began this journey of getting off hardcore pharmaceuticals. It actually was about a year ago now. I started to get off these hardcore sleep aids that my doctor prescribed for me. I was hooked to this thing called quetiapine, which is an antipsychotic and is an off-label. It just makes you super sleepy. And it actually really worked well for me, but I was on the highest dose. And I'm 39 years old, and the next thing you know is my libido is flat. And that was the first thing I noticed. Yes, I'm getting some benefits with the sleep, but the trade-off over here, it wasn't worth the trade-off for me. That was my own personal situation. So I needed to figure out how to solve this conundrum for myself. And so I was really interested. And so about 6 months ago, I got introduced to one of the world's leading experts on a particular mushroom called the Amanita muscaria. We all know it. Yeah. You've heard of it. Mm-hmm. The red mushroom with the little white dots on top of it. It's the universal most well-known mushroom, but it's also the universal most misunderstood mushrooms. And so I started to get on calls with this expert, and I was fascinated by what he was telling me. And so after getting to know him for about 3 months, I decided to run a sleep focus group. And I sent an email out to our entire network, to my close network, and I just said, hey, I'm interested in exploring this because what I came to learn was Amanita muscaria is incredible for the nervous system, okay? And as a byproduct of having a settled nervous system, you sleep better. And when you sleep better, guess what? Every single aspect of your life improves. Think about that for a moment. Think about what happens when you only sleep for 4 hours and the way that you show up in the world the next day.
Yeah, you just feel absolutely like you can't think straight, you can't do you can't function.
For me, I'm a total snap, I'm not an angry person, but I'm just I'm edgy and I'm moody and I'm probably not very fun to be around if you ask my wife.
Right.
And then I find on those days is when the anxiety, the depression, the bad thoughts, the thoughts of alcohol, the eating shitty, all of this is related to the lack of sleep. And so, anyways, sent this email out. Got 60 people from my network that were really interested in getting on top or learning more about this mushroom. And in October, we ran the focus group. And October just happened to be when I was on my honeymoon. And I strategically waited for this because I knew that to get off of the store-bought sleeping pills, so I transferred from the quetiapine to the store-bought sleeping pills, and they work, but you're super groggy in the morning. And then the next day, and so I knew that I had this window of where I could put those down and try this. And so we did. And man, the honeymoon was incredible, but I will tell you, it was the most stressful pocket of my life. In the history of my business career, there were some things that happened when we were away. And we were in this tiny little fishing village with no Wi-Fi or very little connection. I won't get into the details of it, but I'll just say it was the most stressful pocket of time. And we went from a vacation to working 8 to 12 hours every single day for almost the entire trip. But here's the thing. I got on this tincture, the Amanita muscaria tincture. And even through honestly, the most amount of stress that I've ever had in my career, we went through a hack. We had a huge amount of money stolen from us. It was awful. My sleep data, I wear a Whoop. I actually got one of these Whoops just for this sleep study because I was really interested in the metrics, in the science. If you can't tell, I'm into that. Anyways, here's what happened. I had the most incredible, deep REM cycle sleeps. I went from, about an hour and a half of REM cycle sleep all the way up to 4 hours of deep REM cycle sleep during the most stressful pocket of time that I could ever fucking have gone through. And this is the most important detail that I can tell you about right now. I'm not a morning person. And this is why I said I wanted to do the podcast at 11, because it takes the first 2 hours of my day for my brain to kind of get moving. And I don't like that about myself. I want to be a morning person. So I started to wake up and get excited to see just a little bit of light that cracks through the blinds. Excited. I was fucking excited to get into the day, even through all the stress. So my results were absolutely outstanding. And the results of the community, the people that actually took the study seriously and did it consistently, and did it with the way, again, there's ways that you need to work with this medicine. You got to get the dose dialed in, just like microdosing. It's very similar, right? But it changed people's lives. So we have just started this collaboration with Amanita Alchemy. They make what I believe to be the world's best, most efficient tincture and we're promoting this for sleep. We launched it yesterday, January 18th. I am so excited about this product. I think, if you can't tell, it's the most excited I've been about a product since we started this journey with psilocybin. Mushrooms are freaking incredible. And now we've got something that can help settle the nervous system and help you sleep. Could not be more excited about this.
Yeah, so it sounds like you have the whole gamut. You have all of the non-medicinal, psychedelic mushroom, or I should say microdoses. You have now the Amanita that you've added to the spectrum. It's incredible and all natural and working with your body's biology, I feel like that's something important people need to know. It's working naturally with your body. They actually, I'll just throw this in before we wrap completely up.
Sure.
They did a study on microdosing showing that it has a greater affinity to the receptors in the brain by 2,000 times than a pharmaceutical antidepressant. So that's another thing that microdosing can be really beneficial for, because it does work on the same receptors as an antidepressant. So there's so much more to unpack, and I'm really excited that we'll do another episode in the future. So if people want to find you, where can they find you? I'm going to put everything in the show notes, but I just want to let people know where you're at.
Yeah, definitely. So mindfulmeds.io. I don't know, is that showing the right way? Or is that showing in my screen back? Yeah? Okay. Mindfulmeds.io is where you can get the microdosing guide. You can connect with our team. I will share that we're going to start doing group information sessions on the Amanita muscaria. So if you've listened all the way through, or maybe we'll clip this, but starting January 27th, we're going to have our first intake. It's completely free. One of my colleagues and great friends, she has become an expert on this mushroom, and she has so much to share to the world about it. So yeah, again, it doesn't cost you any money. You can come and learn and get educated completely for free. And then follow us on Instagram, mindfulmeds_CA. And my personal Instagram is Keegsy1111, and would love to connect and learn from you. So if you have questions, if you're a practitioner, if you're somebody that wants to potentially collaborate, I want to hear from you. So thank you, Tara.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. What a beautiful conversation. So vulnerable, so real. I'm so grateful for you and everything that you're doing in the world.
This is a lot of fun. I'm excited for 2.0. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great Sunday afternoon. And thank you to you all. Sending so much love to each of you. And what a good time to jump. Hope everybody has a great week ahead.